Alright everybody, welcome back to another edition of UFTA Premium. I'm your host Darren Walters and it's great to have you here. In this particular episode we are going to discuss a new facet of gameplay. Previously I had been expanding the functionalities of the Fenderdoodles and giving them a wider scope. Well, that's going to be no different today. In fact, we're widening the scope one more time. But first, we're going to note that one of the scoring advantages of the undercut crop is going to be reduced. Let's explain the undercut crop again. Undercut crop is the chance to grow two crops of the same type and for an extra score. Often used early in the game to gain an advantage. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the original value of an undercut crop scored was 30 tokens. And we're going to bump that down to 20 because it involves two crops. And two crops would be worth 20 because when we have crop cartels, those begin at 3 crops. And at the 3 crop level, you score 30 tokens. At the 4 crop level, it's 40. So for the sake of consistency, we're just going to go ahead and say that the undercut crop is growing 2 crops for a grand total of 20 tokens. And that's more consistent not only with the crop cartels, but it's also more consistent with the beginning of the game. That doesn't give anybody a serious scoring advantage. Because I have noticed that when the undercut crop is acquired, it does tend to give people a little bit of an edge. So, alright, so that's going to take care of that. So the other facet of gameplay that we're going to highlight today is Fenderdoodles on beneficial equipment items. So the beneficial equipment items are these middle tier items: the greenhouse, high tunnel, organic sprayer, and trading house. And we also have one more addition, the idea being you can place Fenderdoodles on fields. Okay, so we'll go ahead and explain what each of those do. So let's say I have the greenhouse. Now notice this is different from when the Fenderdoodle is placed on an item in the resource shop. Of course, when that happens, that means the item is locked, and you can't purchase the item unless you pay. Unless you roll a die roll 6. I think that's right. This is the most advanced aspect of gameplay, and I'm not quite settled on things. These rules have to be ironed out. All your favorite sports, all your favorite activities, your games, oftentimes have taken years, decades, maybe even centuries. It could be even centuries pass by before any changes are made to gameplay. So that's going to be the case with UFTA 2. That's why it's my legacy project. I don't think I'll complete it by the end of my life, and so it'll take definitely the input and thoughts of others. But anyway, so the greater good is a more robust UFTA for everybody. But we've got the Fenderdoodles on these items. Now, when we purchase the items, that's where the real difference comes in. Because if we place the Fenderdoodle on top of, let's say, the greenhouse, what it has is a doubling effect. You can mostly, when you think of the Fenderdoodles, their primary function and purpose is to double the effect of whatever they're placed upon. Okay, so I've got the Fenderdoodle here, and if I place it on the greenhouse, we remember that the greenhouse allows us to grab whatever crop we want from the draw bag or from the discard pile. Okay, and so if we do that, with a Fenderdoodle on there, we basically just double that effort. So it means I can draw 2 crops out of the bag, and the same goes for the discard pile, right? Or you can mix and match. It doesn't matter. One from the draw bag, one from the discard pile. Okay. So that's what happens with the greenhouse. Trading house, more or less the same effect. The trading house lets us move something in the market, any number of spaces for an action, I believe. Yep. And with that power comes a doubling effect with the Fenderdoodle, meaning that we can go ahead and move a Fenderdoodle. I'm sorry, we can go ahead and move two crops simultaneously. Okay, and so you just pick and choose which ones you want, and that's going to be an action, which is impressive because usually when you manipulate two objects, it's more than one action. So definitely take advantage of these Fenderdoodles. Remember though, it takes two actions to get them established on top of these resource shop items. Okay, so checking that out. On to the next one, high tunnel. The high tunnel has the doubling effect of basically allowing you to grow two crops on the same field. Previously with the high tunnel it was add one crop, and that's a free activity. Well, now you can add two on your turn. Okay, so that's a huge advantage. Again though, we have to bear in mind that afterwards the Fenderdoodle is spent, right? So no matter which resource shop item you have, once the Fenderdoodle is spent, then you can no longer take advantage of what the Fenderdoodle offers until you pay one more action to transform the Fenderdoodle into an adult from a baby. Okay, so we've got the Fenderdoodle here on the high tunnel, and that allows two crops to be planted. The organic sprayer is tricky, and the reason so is because it has to do with insurance. The insurance payout in UFTA, if you get the crop insurance, you're protected against everything. If you have the organic sprayer worth half the amount, 10 tokens, then you are protected against 7 out of 12 of the nasty things that can happen to you with those adversity cards. All right. And so, looking at the organic sprayer, the doubling effect it would have is it's not worth 20 tokens, but when you place the Fenderdoodle on there, suddenly you're protected against everything. So it's as if you had bought the crop insurance with just 2 extra actions of activating the Fenderdoodle. Okay, so that's a really nifty, interesting idea that's waiting to be explored. I haven't explored it yet, to be honest. Okay, so that takes care of the 4 items. When we want to place a Fenderdoodle on a field, the effect that it has is that it makes that field twice as productive. Okay, so whereas during normal crop production, we would disc, seed, cultivate, and harvest. Each of those activity or actions is each of those is an action, so it would require 4 actions, right? And usually that means 2 turns, because there's 2 actions per turn allowed. Well, when you have a Fenderdoodle on a field, that math changes. It becomes basically double. So on my first action, instead of just disking, what I would do is I would take the field and I would disc and I would plant something. That consists of 1 action. Then I would cultivate and harvest, using up the second action. Now you're not obligated to use that second action. You don't have to do that. But it does at least make use of the Fenderdoodle when you do that. And basically you've hastened the productive life cycle of a crop. You know, you've quickened the processing, the production, and made it easier to score faster, right? So that makes a whole lot of sense, right? So those are just some of the benefits that the Fenderdoodles confer. It's a little bit like a worker placement mechanic, right? Because their role changes slightly depending on what item they happen to enhance, right? Okay, so bearing all that in mind, we'll just go ahead and play a little bit here. And when these opportunities come up, I'll weigh their risks and benefits, pros and cons. Okay. All right, so here we go. Here's a 2. Here's a 1. We don't do 1s. 5s. It's going to be Roscoe. All right, everybody, so we're going to go ahead and speed this along. It's a pretty even start, so we're just going to say we have an even dispersal of equipment items. Then we're going to say everybody has a beneficial item of their choice. And we're going to say that the Fenderdoodles we're going to go with the field. Alright, so GRA, if you notice, they've got the disc, the trading house, and then they've got a Fenderdoodle on the field. Over here, GRB, we've got a Fenderdoodle on the greenhouse. And then we've got Grower C, Fenderdoodle on the high tunnel. So let's see how this all plays out. So here's 4 productive, which means I've spent the Fenderdoodle, so I'm going to disc for free, and I'm going to cultivate a token of them, and then I'm going to, I planted and cultivated, now I'm going to harvest. Beans on beans. Token, but it's going to load this up for it. Okay, and so this loaded up the beans for the undercut crop, but instead of 30 tokens, now we're going to place only 20. Because again, we're growing 2 crops of the same type, so that's worth 20. 3 crops in the crop cartel is worth 30. So that's a nice example there. Okay, so we grew the beans. It's worth 5 tokens. 4 red. Okay, so now that I spent the Fenderdoodle, it doesn't have to remain on the field, it comes off. Okay, now normally Fenderdoodles do stay in place, right, when you place them on resource shop items or crops. But in the case of the field, it has to come off because the field has to be flipped over again to an unharrowed side. Right? Okay, so that's why we do that. If I want to place another Fenderdoodle again, it's going to cost me 2 actions. Okay, so here's a 4. Okay, so we're going to get the greenhouse. With the greenhouse, we're going to go ahead and use the Fenderdoodle on it, and we're going to grab one from here and maybe one from the discard pile. It's our choice what we do. You can mix and match. You can grab both crops in the bag and make that happen. Because I don't think there's any potatoes in our discard. Alright, so we just grabbed 2 potatoes. They're ours now. Now notice that since we have the Fenderdoodle on, that only costs here's where the costs are not certain, because it did take 2 actions to place the Fenderdoodle on the greenhouse. The greenhouse is normally an action. So just because I have 2 items, it doesn't mean 2 actions occurred. Okay? That's the benefit that the Fenderdoodle gives you, the doubling effect. And so this was 1 action. Right? So I have an action left on my turn. I'll get rid of the carrots. Let's see. And I'll keep the potatoes. Okay, so I've kept the potatoes. Now I'm going to, do my second action. Second action is going to be plant potatoes. Now, if you feel like the greenhouse is maybe too powerful a piece all of a sudden in light of the crop cartels, well, just bear in mind that we could have this scenario right here, where we have a Fenderdoodle on the greenhouse. And if we have that scenario, then the only way to get that off there is to roll a die roll 6. Die roll 6 is pretty precious for most people because that's their opportunity to go on the defensive and attack others. That doesn't really make sense. You know, our definitions of defense and offense are very muddy by our sports, and so what I'm trying to say is we're not defending the goal. What we're doing is we're building the offense and attacking it. Anyway, I'm sure future generations will get this straightened out. I don't have to think about it. I've done enough thinking. Maybe you haven't noticed, but Rupta is a whale of a cognitive exercise. Okay? Maybe not quite up there with calculus, but it is strenuous. Okay, so here's a 1. Wait, no. I'm going to get these ratchets charged. Alright, so now we're going to get a chance. We didn't use a trading house, but we're going to disc all 4 fields as a first action. Second action. Notice that as a second action, if you only have 1 action left, you can only make a baby Fenderdoodle placement. You place it on a trading house, and that costs an action. Okay. 6 sabotage. Well, check it out. I mean, I could sabotage Fenderdoodle, but I can't raid it. I could use my sabotage to remove the Fenderdoodle from the item. And the reason I can do that is because it's a die roll 6 sabotage. But if I wanted to raid the sabotage, that requires again 3 adversity cards to be spent on your farm. You have to have 3 adversity cards. I lack it in this case, and so I can't do that. But I can remove the Fenderdoodle and negate their bonus. Okay, so there's that. free. I mean, cultivate. Oh, I guess I pay for that. My apologies. Okay. So here's a 4, a 1, tractor, potatoes. Gamble, haven't gambled, I'm gonna gamble. 1, 2, 3. So 5 tokens back, 4 tokens back, 6 in the cup, and now we're gonna go carrots. Go with broccoli. Okay, now wait. We're not planting. We're going to use a trading house. We're going to use a trading house, and we're going to take the opportunity to move 2 crops where I need them. In this particular case, if you notice, I got carrots, cucumbers, kale, radish, broccoli. So I've got broccoli and radishes together. Alright, so here's a case where I'm going to use a trading house even though I don't have Fenderdoodle up because I only need to move 1 crop. And that's what the regular trading house does for you. So instead I'm going to move, say, carrots up where these are. Because if you notice, I have broccoli, radishes, kale, and carrots, and I make cucumber. That's a 4 crop combo. That's worth keeping together. In fact, if I have another Fenderdoodle, I will put that in something. Okay. Okay, here we go. 4. Gonna harvest those potatoes for free. Potatoes, 11. Oh, it's an oofta. How about that? 7 and 8, 15. Oofta! You don't have to say it, you can be manly about it. Oofta. Hasta la oofta, baby. That's kind of what we're going for. You need to be a man about it. Okay, so 6 sabotage. Okay, cucumber, potatoes, carrots. 4 is productive. Oh, I want to take a time out and just say that, if you're ever shopping for apparel online, I've already mentioned my Etsy shop. You just type in Oofta into their search engine, and then that brings up all the merchandise related to Oofta, the game board. And then if you also click on, you go to Amazon, you can also go to Amazon and find apparel and merchandise there. So you just go to Amazon, click on, or just type in Oofta, and that'll bring up the store for you. In case you're interested in anything to fit into the family. Alright, so here we go. 2 is productive. 2, don't have enough tokens over there. Potatoes, carrots, corn, and beans. Now here's a case where we need to make a decision. I could continue on with the crop productivity, or I could focus on Fenderdoodles and getting those back up and going. Nobody's harvesting right now, so I don't think I'm ready for that. Bear in mind, you also have to assess where the other growers, what they're doing. Oofta isn't created in a bubble. You don't play in a bubble. You have to, the social geniuses out there, the people who are good with crowds, this is their time to shine because Oofta is in fact a diplomatic game. You have to be good at many things. It challenges you in many aspects of your life. Okay, so here's, let's go with radishes. Got potatoes. Where's the plant? Never mind about the Fenderdoodle. Okay, and then somebody's got the greenhouse. That might be worth constructing. From the corn beans. Five, productive broccoli. Two in the cup. Okay. 6 sabotage. Okay, we're gonna harvest potatoes for free. What is on potatoes? Is that it? Okay, so I think that's going to wrap it up. This gave you a kind of a broad overview of what the expansion of the functionality of the Fenderdoodles looks like. And I think our assessment is it's definitely a keeper in the game. So what did you guys think? Do you have any comments or questions? Go ahead and leave those at the bottom of the description of the video. And I think we're going to leave it at that for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the flip side. Until next time, keep on playing Oopday, everybody. Adios.